Okay, I'm here with Tommie Gary, Officer Tommie Gary, who is the Chief Compliance Officer for First Security. Tommie has been involved in the security industry for years. A CHL instructor, a firearms specialist. The list goes on and on. How long have you been really involved in security?
About 10 years with this company, but during my railroad career, probably the full length of it, 37 years.
And you've been with First Security for a good bit of that.
Yes, mostly 10 years, about 10 years.
Okay, great. Tommie, if you hadn't had a chance to meet him, is just a fantastic guy. He knows no strangers. He would be happy to talk with you. He will meet with some of the new officers that come on board and kind of get them acclimated to being an officer, as well as the seasoned veterans. So he gets along with all of them. So what I wanted to chat a little bit with tonight and ask you is, over the years, you've seen pretty much everything there is to see in the security field. Tonight we're at the Hills Church. They've got a bunch of activities going on a weeknight, and so you never know what to expect.
That's correct. And
so you've seen a little bit of everything. So tell me a little bit about, first, what you enjoy about working an event like this and what you enjoy about being a security officer.
The main thing is serving other people. I like the flexibility of it. It's not just the same rapid, repeated step every day. There's a great deal of flexibility, and probably in your original question there, flexibility as an officer is one of the main aspects of what we do. Officer presence, of course, is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Just showing up on the job in a timely fashion, being properly dressed, having good facility of all of your tools.
Yeah. So when you say flexibility, you're talking about being able to be flexible with how you carry out your duties, being flexible when people ask for things. Expand a little bit on what do you mean by flexibility?
A good example would be, one lady asked me one night why we had such a security presence. Was there something wrong going on? She was expecting some crazy security answer, I guess, and I just smiled and said, "Why, were you thinking about doing something?" It totally disabled the whole situation. Right. I mean, right. She was just calm then and laughed and silly sort of thing. And I said, "We're here to keep you safe. We're just enjoying a good time together with you this evening." And that was enough for her.
Do you find keeping kind of a casual tone or atmosphere important to what you do? I've watched you before. You're really good with people, and not everybody's as good with people as somebody like yourself. How do you break the ice like that? How do you keep it from being so formal but not getting so casual that they lose respect?
I try to keep a good personality to where I'm ready to react to the situation, whatever it is at the particular time. If it's serious, the personality needs to be serious. Mm-hmm. If it's fun, the personality needs to be somewhat fun.
Is that something that someone can learn? I mean, can you get better? Are there different techniques that you can use to kind of break that ice if you're not really a people person, or
exactly.
Because I think people can see when you're faking it.
Exactly.
So what are some things maybe that someone could do if they're not necessarily a people person? What advice would you give them in this area of kind of creating an atmosphere of professionalism? What is it? Kind of a command presence is a word that's used a lot, a phrase, but also being approachable and being courteous. How do you kind of balance that?
I believe that every person has a particular gift. That's why they're about what they're about in their life. I'm a servant, and I know that, and I do not mind serving you in any situation. However, in our company and in most security situations, I'm forced to lead. I lead as a servant is a way that I particularly do it, but I have to know that also I'm leading this situation. I prefer that you go ahead of me. I prefer that you would be able to do that, and I would assist you in doing that. If you're not capable, though, I have to step in and be able to do that. So that's where the flexibility comes in. If you're put in a situation where you're the only male there in that situation, you have to be certain that you realize that you have to give to that organization of women. You have to be able to allow them to have the lead, as well as have them feel like you're the person that will take care of them, protect them. You're not going to be able to be one guy protecting against 40 people out there, but you have to give that presence to where you're able to. Have to know what your next step's going to be ahead of time. You had to prepare before you got here. When you get here and see what the actual situation is, you may have to adjust what it is to what it is. And then lastly, you may have to know I may need more help, or I've got this, it's okay.
You said a word there, preparation is what I was hearing in that. And I know one of the first things, me being new to this industry, you were very patient with me, but I think one of the things you did that really helped me immensely was to have me go through a mental exercise of 4 or 5 things. If this happens, what am I going to do next? Would you say that's probably one of the best or strongest assets that you've had through the years that served you well, or is there something else that you just look to and say, this is, if I had one thing that I was really hold to, this has helped me be the best officer I could be?
It is the best thing. You have to have a plan. If you have a plan and don't need it, it's no big deal. At least you got the practice of working through. If you need a plan and don't have it, you're never going to recover. I've known that in my personal life, in my work life, with my kids, my family life, just everywhere. Now with my grandkids, I have to have a plan for what's going to happen, because people are going to give you the variable. Situations are going to give you the variable. It's not come to work, clock in, get these 10 things done, and clock out and go home. Security's just not that way.
So that you're prepared no matter kind of what happens, so that you've kind of gone through that in your mind and you're prepared. That's huge. Any stories that you'd like to share? I know when I mention Tommie, then stories naturally follow.
Absolutely.
But and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit. But in your years of doing this, what's the craziest thing that you've seen happen or that you've been a part of? Can you think of some situation that you maybe thought you were walking into one thing and you walked into something totally different? Or
many times that's happened, that I thought I was walking into one situation. We did security one night for a ladies' all-night prayer vigil at a particular church over here in another small city, and was one of the first years that we'd been armed on duty, and we did not know anything about it, so I took the first shift. When I walked into the building, one of the ladies there said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. You're probably here about my son-in-law." She began to tell me about how he'd threatened and he'd done all these things, and he had said that he was coming to end our telecast. And I said, "Your telecast?" They were on live TV at the same time.
And you had no idea
I had
walking
idea.
into this.
We were going over there just to do security, and so right away I got in a little pad and I said, "What would your son-in-law's name be? What would he be dressed like? What was his appearance? What kind of statements did he actually make? What kind of car does he drive?" And then I began to call and share that information with management, and actually call the local police and talked with them just in case we would have a situation like that. But you think you're there for one thing, you rarely are. You're there for, they called you for security need, and they may have explained it differently than when you got on scene. On the other side, you don't want to take over the event and say, "No, you don't need this," but you have to realize what the real threat is at that position, that time.
Okay, last question. What maybe is your biggest pet peeve? Every job has its things that are tough to deal with, or that either get monotonous or whatever. We deal with people, and when you deal with people, people can be interesting at times. Whether it's the people you're serving in the event, or whether it's the clients that you're working with. So how would you encourage or really help somebody that's new to this? Or maybe they've been doing this for a long time, and how do they get past that frustration of, it just drives me crazy when they do blank?
Just what I did for you a minute ago. We all get tired. We all get bored. We all get fed up at particular times. We don't have the luxury of relaxing at the wrong time. One of my things that I always say to the officers when they've told me about a particular difficult situation is, watch your six. In other words, look out behind you. That's not an NCIS thing. That's not a silly thing. Your life is on the line when you strap on these tools that you use to work with out there, whether you're armed or not. Your life is always on the line in that situation. So I'm trying to keep the guys active. Don't sit. If you have to sit and you're forced to sit on a stool. Keep one foot on the ground while you're sitting on that stool. We all get tired. We all get hungry. We all need to go to the restroom. All of those things. That plan, again, to take care of that is what's important. We may need to call for a relief. We may need to call for police help. We may need to call for their person in charge to find out, do I need to stand here on this door all day? Oh, my, no. Let's get a place where you sit. Have you had water or something like, that's all going to be a part of that. But if you don't talk to them, if you don't stay alert, if you're, it's part of that preparedness situation again. But at any point, if we sit down, if we lean up against the wall with our foot up, or if we get on our cell phone, I'm not saying guys can't have a momentary call or that sort of thing, but if I'm in a 25-minute text back and forth, or I'll get to that in just a minute. Wait, I'll get there. That's not.
And that can be so difficult because really the phone specifically has become a tool for our industry. So we may be looking at cameras, we may be talking to our other officer, but to the average person that walks up, there's the guy. There's the officer, and he's playing Tetris or whatever.
And
he's
messing around. People come to me this last year about that in some of my places where we work, because like here we're in a building of 5,000 people, and probably maybe the plant is 2 acres total, and one man can't cover all of that. But I do have cameras, so I'm remotely looking at those, and I've had people remark to me about that. Hope that game's a lot of fun or something. I tell them I was just watching the other end of the building to be sure that they're as safe as you are. Oh, I didn't know that we had that. Well, you don't need all of that information necessarily, right. But they accuse me of something at the moment, which I lightheartedly want to say, nah, I was checking on the other people at the other place there. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were goofing off. I didn't mean to. You need communication, again, with the people. And
being aware that exactly. In a way you're in a fishbowl, you're being looked at, you feel like, you're furniture.
Exactly.
You want to be seen, you're a presence, but you also want to be, removed from the activity. But, be aware that what do you look like, to them? What do you, so that can be a concern. You don't want to communicate that, you're goofing off, you're loafing, you're playing. It's like, but it can be critical. What I want to say, Tommie, is how much you've meant to me personally. You have had so much patience with all of us, especially the new guys coming on board, and the way you handle all of our officers with class and respect and dignity. You're a credit to the organization, and I appreciate it. And you've been fantastic. And one of the reasons I want to come out and meet with some of the guys and talk with them is to do something like this and share a little bit so the other guys can see a little bit more about the guys they work with. Sometimes they're on a shift and they don't get a chance to meet anybody, or they're new. But if you hadn't got a chance to meet Tommie, you need to spend some time getting to know him. And believe me, he has plenty more stories. We don't have enough time to do all the stories. But anyway, thank you so much for all you do. You're a credit to our company, and I appreciate that. And you guys are too. Just know that you're special, and what you do is important, and it matters. It matters.
Absolutely.
All right.